Yeah. Queen City, stay hot. From the banks of the Ohio where the river runs slow, got the whole Queen City screaming, let's go. Red caps high when the first pitch pops. Cincinnati on fire and we stay red hot. Big red legacy, bats stay loud. Ball flying out while the fans stand proud. From the riverfront seats to the top of the chart. Talking Reds baseball, yeah, we bring the spark. Stay red hot, let the whole world know. Queen City baseball, putting on the show. From the first pitch drop to the last swing shot. Cincinnati Reds, yeah, we stay red hot.
Well, good evening. Sorry to get started a little bit late, but I had to stay and watch the end of that UConn Duke game because any opportunity that I get a chance to watch the Duke Blue Devils lose, it always makes me happy. Call me a hater, if you will, but that's just how it goes when it comes to NCAA basketball. I root for Kentucky and Kentucky only, and then anybody that plays Louisville or Duke. But that's not why we're on here tonight. We're on here tonight to talk about your Cincinnati Reds. Well, after opening day, I'm sure we had the mindset of, well, that's why they play 162 games. Opening day has come and gone. The sun was out. The crowd was electric. The optimism was sky high. And just like that, Series 1 is in the books. Welcome to the Stay Hot podcast, where the takes are hot, the overreactions are real, and opening day, well, opening day always gives us a lot to talk about. You wait all winter, you build up those expectations, you convince yourself that this is the year. And then 9 innings later, you're either flying high or you're already saying, new year, same old Reds. But here's the thing. Whether today ended in celebration or frustration, this game gave us our first real look at the Cincinnati Reds baseball team. We saw the energy, even if it was the unruly crowd that ruined the opening day parade or shut down the city streets as well as the Roebling Bridge. We saw the energy, even if it was in the form of riot shields and pepper spray. We saw the energy on the field, even if we had to wait till game 2 when Dane Myers walked it off in the 11th inning on a single, scoring the winning run. And we saw the energy, even if we had to wait till Gino smashed an 0-2 pitch into the left field upper deck, giving the Reds a 3-2 lead in Game 3, which the bullpen was able to hold on. We saw the young talent, which has a lot of the Cincinnati Red fan base ready to crown Sal Stewart a Hall of Famer. Sal did go 7 for 10 in this series from the plate with a home run, 3 doubles, and RBI. Also reached base via 3 walks. And in the series finale today, Sal reached base every time he came to the plate. All 4 times he reached base. We saw flashes of what this team can be, and we also saw some of the things that may drive us crazy for the next 6 months. But that's baseball. That's the ride. Every season starts with one game, and one game always leads to overreactions. If they won, we're talking World Series. If they lost, we're talking about what went wrong, what needs to change, and why opening day always seems to bring just a little bit of chaos. But here's what matters most. Baseball's back. The Cincinnati Reds are back. And now the marathon officially begins. The team's going to have some big wins. They're going to have some tough losses. And hopefully the Stay Hot podcast will be here with you through them all. They're going to have breakout performances, moments that make you pull your hair out. But today, this series was just the first chapter. And no matter how it ended, the best part is we're finally talking baseball again. So whether you're celebrating or already looking ahead to when the Pirates come to Cincinnati tomorrow, this is the Stay Hot podcast, and the season officially starts right now. Welcome to the Stay Hot podcast, hot off the press. I'm your host, Patrick Kelch. And the Reds, after opening day performance, like I said, I'm one of those fans who always create a lot of overreactions on every pitch, every at bat. And after game one, I was already talking to a few fans, and I think I even said that dreaded phrase, New Year, same Reds. I thought Andrew Abbott did a remarkable job in game one. I thought he pitched well considering how spring training went. I thought he gave the Reds a chance to win. But anytime you're going up against a Cy Young candidate like Crochet, scoring runs aren't going to be easy, and the Reds proved just that. And I think that's what frustrated me the most, talking about, the Reds offense and how much better the Reds offense was, how much better it had gotten since last year. Adding a big bat to the middle of the lineup like Suarez, and we were just, a lot of the Reds fans were excited that, this offense was going to produce a lot of runs. Then after game one, where Abbott pitched, I think six scoreless innings, was it? 7 hits, I think 4 strikeouts. He, the bull turned it over to the bullpen. And I thought the one area that the Reds could have improved on the most in the offseason was the bullpen. And I know they signed a few guys, but I still think that's going to be the one weakness this team has. Now, 3 games into the season, I didn't expect to already be testing the strength of our bullpen or our starting pitching. I thought the starting pitchers that we had and the rotation we have was definitely a strength. And the good thing, we have the depth that we've had, because Hunter Green's already on the disabled list until July, I believe, All-Star break or after. And then Lodolo got a blister, who arguably some say is our second best pitcher. Him and Abbott are both very valuable to have in the rotation. But we're going to get looks at Williamson, Burns, and Rhett Lauder pitched today, and I don't know if Rhett Lauder could have did a much better job than what he did. The one area that I hope the Reds continue to look into and continue to address as the season goes on is the bullpen. In game one, I thought the bullpen did a decent job. However, giving up 3 runs to the Red Sox, who are probably going to be in the hunt come the AL East, as well as the hunt for in the playoffs, World Series. When only you give up 3 runs, you feel like you should have a chance to win. But just like in game 2 and game 3, I thought Brady Singer pitched a pretty good game in game 2. It was obvious from early on he was battling his blisters. Kept licking his fingers, kept trying to get a grip on the ball. However, Brady was able to battle through 4 innings, and Connor Phillips took over. And I thought Connor Phillips pitched a good 2 2/3 innings. I know he gave up 2 earned runs, but I thought he did a really good job in putting the Reds in a position there late, extra innings to win that game. And then today, Rhett Lauder went 5 innings and turned it over to Brock Burke, and the Reds were down 2-0 until I think it was the 7th inning when Suarez hit the 3-run homer, left field upper deck, and the bullpen was able to hold it. Pagan yesterday didn't look like he had his best stuff, gave up the tying run in the 9th, and then today Pagan did a much better job in the 9th. I know he gave up a double, I think, in the 9th. However, the Reds did he did battle out of that. The one spot in both games so far this year is Tony Santillan, and he's usually the guy that has to come on in the 8th to hold the lead for Pagan. He's just not. I don't know if it's his command. I don't know if it's his control. I was doing a little research on him earlier, and a lot of pundits and people who follow the Reds a lot more than I do. I'm a casual fan or whatever you want to look at it as. But they say his velocity's down. He's throwing 93, 94 on his 4-seam fastball, when last year he was up around 96, 97. But the concerning part is He's only pitched 2 innings and he's walked 4 batters. He's got a whip of 2.50, which is walks, hits per inning pitch. So he's allowing almost 3 runners on base, every inning he pitches. But I think we saw a glimpse of Rhett Lauder today that makes us exciting, or makes us as Reds fans excited for what there is to come. But I think if you look at the series as a whole, there's a few storylines that emerged. One is the starting pitching. If you go back and look at the starting pitching between Lauder, Abbott, and Brady Singer, all 3 had what I would consider good starts. But none of our starters were able to secure a victory. Our bullpen was able to get those victories, and then Pagan got a save today. A couple other storylines in the hitting. We can't go on any farther without talking about Sal Stewart. Like I said, kind of my intro, a lot of people on Twitter, Facebook, if you're in all the Reds groups on Facebook, you'll see that they're already ready to crown, Sal Stewart, a Hall of Famer, and he's just in his rookie season. Now, if you were to stop the season after one series, I think it'd be a fairly safe to say that Sal Stewart would not only be MVP of the National League, but he'd probably also be Rookie of the Year. But to go ahead and crown him a Hall of Famer is a little premature, but this is the Way Too Early Reds Overreaction podcast. So, if we're going to overreact, at least it's going to be on something positive. You'll hear me as the season goes along. I overreact a lot. But, somebody went on even to say that the Reds started a Hall of Fame left part of the infield today, which would have been McLean and Sal Stewart. I think McLean is the other hitter of the series that, kind of we saw glimpses of what kind of season he was going to have in spring training. But just like anything else, spring training is one of those times that you don't put a lot of stock into just because it is spring training. Pitchers working on different things. If we were going to put a lot of stock into spring training, we wouldn't have expected Andrew Abbott to give us the start he did after collecting a 13 ERA in spring training. However, but McLean batted 400 in the series. He did have a double. 4 walks, which I think having Stewart and McLean up in the first 3 batters of the lineup. And Friedel's a guy, too, that you'll see. He will get on base as the season goes along. He had a rough series, but you'll see those 3 guys, if they continue to get on base, to give Ellie, Suarez, Steer, who hit the ball extremely hard all series. He just hit it right at the defense. There were several balls he hit over 100 exit velocity that just wasn't able to get on base. But McLean did get 4 hits and 10 at-bats, and he was also on base 4 different times for the walk. So in the series, that's 8 times he was on base. So those 2 guys continue to get on base with Friedel at the top, and it creates a lot more scoring opportunities when you got Ellie and Suarez behind with Steer, and even Marte's got a little bit of power. I think we're going to see at some point in time Reese Hines. He's killing AAA right now. First couple games, I know he's hit the ball extremely well. But as excited as we are about Sal Stewart and the hitting he had, I think it's safe to also overreact on the series that Ellie had. Now, I saw somebody comment that they felt like Ellie would come out a lot more hot than what he did. However, Ellie, I think he was 2 of 12, but struck out 7 times. And the one thing that you guys know, that if you follow the Reds, Ellie's going to strike out. He struck out 7 times in the series, and Suarez, I think, struck out 5 times, and Friedel struck out 6 times. And the only, if we watch all 162 games of the Reds, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for us to get on here and second guess, managerial decisions from Francona. But Francona, he's, a Hall of Famer. And I think I was listening to one of the Reds post games and I can't remember the hitter it was, but just talked about Francona and some of the different things that he does, and how much trust they have in him. And, one of the things that I was hoping to see was I was hoping to see Dane Myers start against the lefty in game one. But, we all knew, and we talked about that a couple shows ago, how that Tito wasn't going to bench Friedel on opening day. And, I just know Myers is kind of you have these guys who have specialties, and one of his specialties is he kills left-handed hitting, or left-handed pitching, I should say. I'm sorry, left-handed pitching. And he got the walk-off hit in the 11th last night, and then I think in his first at bat today, he got a single. I wish he'd been able to produce a run there in the middle innings when he grounded into that double play, but you're going to have at bats like that. But as far as hitting goes, Sal Stewart and Matt McClain were really the only two offensive players that had big series. Ellie did hit a home run, but he's 2 of 12 with the 7 strikeouts, and then Friedel and Steer, both had one. Friedel had 2 hits, and Steer had 1 hit in the series. But like I said, it's early, 3 games in. But overreact is what we do. But one positive I saw about Steer at the plate was I thought he was actually hitting the ball hard, making good solid contact. And usually when that happens and they start finding gloves, you'll go through a spurt. If you keep hitting the ball really hard, they're going to start finding holes, openings, gaps. And I'm looking for Spencer Steer to have a bounce back season after last year. I thought he was a disappointment last year. But with that being said, the one area too that I thought they struck out 24 times in a 3-game series. That's a lot. Especially, I read a comment, and I said this comment for years. I read the comment on Twitter earlier today that the Reds have to lead Major League Baseball in getting a runner on second base with no outs and not being able to score a run. And like I said before, if we watch all 162 of the Reds games, we're going to feel like that happens a lot, but that's because the Reds are who we watch the most. I bet if you were to watch 162 games of, let's say, the Braves or Mets or White Sox or whoever, you're going to find out that those guys have a lot of opportunities too that they don't cash in on. So, but the philosophy that I've always been a fan of is get them on, get them over, get them in. The Reds seem to get them on and get them over. They've had trouble in the past collecting that big hit. And today, Suarez showed why the Reds brought him back was because he's able to deliver that big hit. And that was smashed. I mean, I'm going to pull it up here and let you see it. But if you've not seen Suarez's home run, one of the few things you see in baseball is, or whatever you hear. Hold on, let me see if I can. Let me pull it up here. You'll hear the phrase a lot of times, no doubter. And Suarez today was a no doubter. And let me pull this up here. All right, let me get this back. All right, just kind of watch this leave the bat here. I mean, that's what you call a no doubter. And if that right there is why they brought Suarez back, was to get that big hit, and he delivered today. And and that swing right there was the difference in a 1-2 series and a 2-1 series. And starting the season off with a series victory over the Red Sox. It has to be a big momentum booster. And let me see here. All right. All right. And one of the things that's been frustrating the last couple of years with the Reds is their division matchup record or their division record against teams within their division. And I'm trying to look and see who the starting pitch. All right, and the one area that like I talked about before, my computer went wonky, and I had to go back and find what I was looking for. The Reds always struggled. It seemed like with teams within their division, and the teams outside their division, the Reds have had some success with, and then one of those teams inside the division, although they haven't had much success from a division standpoint, the Pirates, they've seemed to have the Reds number the last several years. In the last 2 years, they've had a 14-12 record against the Reds within the division. And all right, and it looks like they haven't decided yet. I was looking to see if possibly the Reds were going to get Paul Skeens in Game 3, considering he pitched in opening day. I know he got rocked in opening day. I don't know if they've put him on the disabled list or if they've put him on something, but they have a to be determined on Wednesday. Tomorrow we get a look at Chase Burns. He's going against Braxton Ashcraft. That'll be a 6:40 start. I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to purchase that Reds MLB channel. I'd like to purchase it so I can watch it because I have Hulu, and of course there's not a Reds channel on Hulu. However, there's a lot of people been complaining that a lot of these games are blacked out and within their local viewing area. And I don't want to pay $100 for the season if I'm not going to be able to watch a lot of the games due to them being blacked out. But we got Braxton Ashcraft versus Chase Burns in Game 1. Bubba Chandler versus Brandon Williamson in Game 2. And then we got to be determined for the Pirates versus Andrew Abbott in Game 3. And that'll be Wednesday, and that'll be the Business Day Special at 12:40. I was looking to see. The Pirates lost. They went 1-2 in their series versus Mets to open up the season. But a lot of that has to do with Paul Skeens. When I say he got rocked in the first game against the Mets. I remember I was watching that. Skeens pitched the first inning. He didn't even make it out of the first inning. Got a 67.5 ERA. To be quite honest with you, I hope the Reds don't see him in the third game series. I don't want him to get healthy against the Reds. That always seems to be something that I've noticed. Teams that are struggling seems to go up against the Reds and throw a one hitter, 12 strikeout. Next thing you know, they're on their way to a Cy Young. But just to kind of preview of course, the starting lineups aren't out yet, but the one thing that I noticed for the Pirates coming in, of course, Great American is referred to by a lot of people as a hitter's ballpark, and that's why a lot of people felt like, Suarez coming back, he's potential 40 home run guy playing in Great American for half the games, so he gets 81 games of Great American. But Brandon Lowe for the Pirates hit 3 home runs in his opening series as a second baseman. He went 5 of 12. Ryan O'Hearn, first baseman, he also went 6 of 14, so he hit the ball really well. Then kind of just like the Reds, nobody after that really what I would consider knocked the cover off the ball. O'Neal Cruz got 10 at-bats, only 2 hits, and made a really poor defensive play in one of those games. Also, speaking of defensive plays, for the most part, I know what it says on paper. The Reds played a pretty clean series against the Red Sox. Although I felt like Ellie had an error today. I felt like I should have been an E6. But a little home cook in the official score gave the guy a hit, which I'm not an official professional scorer by any stretch of the imagination, but I really felt like that was a play that Ellie should have made that was an error, and that the scorekeeper gave the guy a single, which also it ended up leading to a run. If you want to know the truth, but I was looking up something with I thought I saw an interview with Suarez after he hit the home run I was going to listen to, but have you all ever noticed, and I know you have, but like when Suarez interviews with Jim Day, it's I don't know, it's just like the greatest thing I've ever seen. It's just like there's like a mutual admiration between Jim Day and Eugenio Suarez. And I like live for those moments because I just love listening to Gino talk. And I felt like, today, that home run, I sat up and I said, welcome home, Gino. And I think I even tweeted it, like, just a huge moment there for, and I know it's just like, overreacting again. I know it's just, first series, third game of the year, but I just felt like game 2 leading for most of the way, and then Pagan to kind of blow that save in the 9th. I felt like, not necessarily must win. I don't want to sound that ridiculous, but I felt like that was a game that pulling that out, and the one they won today. And Tito even said this in his post-game press conference, the game today is one they would have lost last year. And I'm thinking, yeah, because, Suarez had all 3 RBIs, a 3-run homer. We didn't have that guy last year that, so many games we lost by 1-2 runs because we didn't collect that big hit. And 2 games in a row with Myers getting the big hit in game 2, and then Suarez getting the big knock today. That was just the momentum the Reds can build from that, and getting off to a hot start tomorrow in the division. The Reds have a lot of people talking about them right now, and I think it's warranted. I definitely think they have the starting pitching, and I definitely think they have the lineup where they can win the Central. I know the Brewers have kind of been a thorn in their side, but I don't think the Cubs, Cardinals, or Pirates can string a long-term season or a lot of success for a long season, 162 games, that they're going to be in the mix. So, Reds, Brewers, but also I noticed too, and if you're a bettor, and I don't know how many of y'all do sports betting, but the moment that Hunter Green announced, that he would be out, the Reds win total went from 82.5 to 80.5, almost like 3 games, or 83.5 to 80.5. So, I think the Reds have a very good chance to win in 81 games this year. But it was just crazy to me how just one guy getting hurt, Hunter Green, who, has been the Reds' best starting pitcher and even earned his opening day start this year, just by announcing he was going to be out till the All-Star break or after, that they would drop the Reds, 3 games in the win column just on that news there. So, I'd be curious, if anybody, you can comment. Before I go on, do me a favor for those of you that are new here. We've got several people watching. If you're new here, please help me out just by liking and subscribing to the channel. When we did the UK podcast last week, I got over 1,200 views, and I think I collected like 20-some new subscribers. So if you are new here and you don't already subscribe to the Stay Hot Podcast YouTube channel, please do so. I do appreciate it. My views do continue to go up, so that means it's reaching more people, and for that I'm gracious. And a lot of that is because of you guys and you all sharing it on social media when I post it, or just you all liking and commenting it, or not necessarily commenting, but just you all liking, while I'm on here tonight, or subscribing to the channel. That also messes with the YouTube algorithm and gets it out to more people. It just seems like the Reds community is just like a tough egg to crack. Last week we had great, we had great chat. We had people, just conversations going on within the chat. And I'd like to do that too with the Reds, because it's a lot easier to host a show when you're not the only one talking. But, anything to say or whatever, feel free to comment. If you're on your phone, I know it's kind of hard to comment and watch on your phone. If you're on the TV, you can pull up the podcast on your phone, and you can make comments that way on your phone while you're watching on your TV, or if you're using a laptop or whatever. All right. But back to the Pirate series coming up. I'm after watching Rhett Lauder today, I'm kind of excited to see Chase Burns tomorrow. I know that Chase Burns pitched last year some, and did a really good job. But I think he's gotten better. Another one of those good young rising stars that throws the ball really hard and has good command. So hopefully the Reds at home tomorrow against the Pirates, we can get the division started hot. And once we start hot, you know what we have to do. Got to stay hot. But Pirates are going with Bubba Chandler against Brandon Williamson. And the one starting pitcher probably had the best spring training probably was Brandon Williamson. And I think Brandon Williamson had to have that kind of spring training to kind of crack that rotation, because I think all signs pointed to either Lauder or Burns. And I think it's helped Williamson a lot, with the spring he had, and to give him a lot of confidence that he's going to make us a quality start on Tuesday. Now that Lodolo and Hunter Green are both out. I did see where Lodolo threw some long toss this weekend. I think it's probably only a matter of time before Lodolo is back in the starting lineup, and I think it'll decide on, what spot he takes based on how Burns and Williamson pitch. I think Lauder did a lot today to give himself another start, and there has been some mention that Tito wants to do a kind of a 6-man rotation anyhow. I'm not used to this stuff here. Oh, really? I think this would be cool. Michael Hall Music says, get the Drunken Mallard on your show. He used to be the Reds mascot. A lot of inside information on the pathetic Reds ownership. Yeah. Is he called the Drunken Mallard on Twitter? I'd love to have him come on. I'll get him on right now. I'll send him right now if he wants to come on. I'd love to have him tell us his story. I think that'd be awesome. And it does say looking up the Pirates, it does say to be determined for Wednesday, and it did say previously listed as Paul Skeens, but now it says to be determined. So I don't know if after his rough, opening day start, if they're going to hold him out of start or what. I hope so. A lot of times the Reds in a division is what starting pitchers you can avoid from the other teams and which ones, are in your rotation up for, when it's your turn to pitch. Or it seemed like a lot of times last year we were going against teams 1 and 2, and they're going against the back end of our rotation, which I definitely think the back end of our rotation is a lot stronger now. But I'm still not sold on the bullpen. And and even after this week, I know the bullpen had a good outing today for the most part, although Santillan, he picked a guy off first base, which helped him a lot. However, all right, says I just found him. He wrote an article about Phil Castellini. It's wild stuff. I'm a huge Reds fan, to not trolling or not. Oh no, I understand, Michael. But I'll look him up or try to get a hold of him, because I'd love to bring him on the show. But I kind of lost my train of thought because I'm thinking about this drunken mallard. I think that'll be really cool. The Reds mascot. All right, I was just looking to see if I could find him on Twitter. I don't see him on Twitter. I'll have to look him up on YouTube when I get a chance. It's too hard to do 2 or 3 things at one time. But and another thing I've seen people question, and see how you all feel about it. Not only the bullpen, I definitely think the bullpen is one of those areas all year long that we're going to be able to pull our hair out. And like I said, Santillan, 8th inning, 2 games in a row was rocky. Graham Ashcraft looked a little rocky yesterday. And, and I know, once the season goes along, they get in their groove, they'll pitch a little bit better. But I've never felt like Santillan not Santillan, but Pagan was a strong closer. I wish they would have looked to maybe find a little bit more consistent closer than Pagan, but he's the reality, so that's who we're going to have to support. But I think the bullpen, if bullpen pitches above my expectations, and I look for the Reds to have a really good season, and not only a really good season, but to win the National League Central. And I can't wait to get to the stadium. I actually thought about trying to go one of the next couple of nights, leaving from after work to go down to watch. But how do you all feel about the Reds? There's opening day is a rich Cincinnati tradition. A lot of times opening day or baseball didn't start till the Reds threw the first pitch, being the oldest franchise, or what it be. But of course the Cincinnati does opening day right, the huge parade. And I know there was some chaos downtown after the game, and then I think they had some issues at the banks kind of prior to. I read an article, Dane Myers and his family was downtown Cincinnati when all that stuff was going on, after the game. They had to hurry up and get the family out of there because he left Great American a little later than everybody else. But not only the Reds not playing the very first game, that doesn't really bother me. I know a lot of old traditionalists think that, the Reds need to play the very first game of the season every year. But how do you feel about the Reds, opening up with the Red Sox? An American League team. I've seen some people on social media upset that the Red Sox, and I don't know how much control the Reds have over their schedule, who they play. I promise you, it's not like a high school girls basketball schedule that I'm familiar with. But a lot of people didn't like the idea of playing the Red Sox on opening day just because it's an American League team. But like I said, I'm not, these are all things that I've just seen. They're just, kind of wondering what your all's opinion is or how you feel about it. Then after the Reds finish up with the Pirates to start the home 6 games at home, they have 7 games on the road, three games with the Rangers, and then they got 4 games with the Marlins before they come back to 6 more games at home against the Angels and Giants. So, you know, I've said in years past for some, and I know I say this, and I even mentioned it in my intro, that, every year we get our expectations up to say, this is the year. This year's the year. But I do feel like something's special with this team. I do feel like, the hitting, I think's better. I think they got the bats in the middle of the lineup that can produce that big hit. By all means, I don't expect Sal Stewart to bat 700 all year long, but I think he's proven he's a good enough hitter that he's going to be able to produce hits, home runs, RBIs. So I do feel like this team's going to win the National League Central. Now, every week that I do a Reds, I may change from, that feeling, because I've had that feeling before, and that feeling turned out to be, false. But I definitely believe the starting pitching and the hitting are where it needs to be. And I'm just hoping the bullpen comes along as the season continues. It's, early now, but that's one thing that I'm hoping that the Reds they continue to try and improve their bullpen. And I know they just signed a guy that I think they signed him from the Angels, maybe sent him to AAA. But I think in his career, he's got like a 2.92 ERA. So that may be somebody. I kind of wish they would have kept Nick Martinez, not because Nick Martinez was a kind of a blowing by you type pitcher, but he ate up a lot of innings. He could start if he needed to. He seemed to be consistent in the middle of that bullpen, and I just felt like that was one area I was kind of hoping that the Reds would spend a little bit more money and a little bit more attention to. And I know, the bullpen isn't what I would consider like in the NFL or NBA, those sexy signings when you sign like a Max Crosby, or NBA, you sign like a Kevin Durant or LeBron James or whatever, and I know that, we had to go out and get us a bat like Suarez, but I think we saw glimpses last year that I don't know if Pagan's stuff is meant to be a closer. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. And if he does prove me wrong, I'm okay with that. However, I don't know how much I can take of watching the Reds, hold a 1-run lead going into the 9th. I definitely think 2 or 3 runs is what Pagan needs. Ugh, these stupid websites. I was trying to get on, I was going to try to check up some minor league stats for us and try to look at, I know Reese Hines has started hot, and I was going to check up JJ Bleday because I noticed Will Benson's, probably going to see some time down, or he's definitely, injuries or whatever. I kind of thought that Reese Hines done enough in spring training to earn himself a roster spot on opening day, but also know there's a lot more goes into that, because I know Bleday and Hines also had options. I know that Lowe and I know Lowe didn't have any options. So let me see here. All right. So I guess all in all, I guess I would say that the first series is a success. After game 1 loss, I was honestly in that mode of, new season, same old Reds. And I've said that a lot. Me and my cousin and a couple of my friends from high school are in group messages, and we talk back and forth a lot about the Reds. And one of my good friends attended opening day, and when they got beat 3-0, I was already griping and complaining. And he said, "This team's gonna be all right. It's only one game. It's gonna be all right." But after one game, I was all ready to dismiss them as I do so many times, with the Reds when I feel like they just don't play good baseball. But after learning a lot about Crochet, and not just last year, but just, after the season he had, then being a Cy Young candidate and being a lefty, which the Reds haven't always hit lefties well, I realized that just that first game, that there's going to be a lot of those games that Crochet goes out and pitches for the Red Sox, that he's going to have that kind of dominating performance. Then, coming back winning games 2 and 3, 2 in extra innings, game 3, the big hit from Suarez. I look for that momentum to carry over into the Pirates series. Like I said, the Pirates have beat the Reds 14 of their last 26, so 14-12 in their last 26 games. I'm hoping at least 2 out of 3. I'm really thinking that the Reds are capable of sweeping the Pirates at home, especially in the pitchers that the Pirates have going in games 1 and 2. Which, don't get me wrong, I don't know nothing about Bubba, and I don't know a whole lot about Braxton Ashcraft, and Bubba Chandler. I just feel like the Reds at home, coming off the big series win to open the season, I feel like the momentum's going to carry them forward. Then I win the first 2, then let's see if we can do against Paul Skeens in game 3 if the Pirates decide to throw him back out there. Has anybody, I know I haven't talked to my brother a lot today, but I know he's a big Pirates fan, and we talked about Skeens after opening day. But have the Pirates mentioned putting him on? Did they put him on the disabled list or anything? Was there? No, I'm not really seeing anything. Although he only pitched 2/3 of an inning with 5 earned runs, I thought maybe sometimes a 10-day. Usually after an outing like that, it's a 10-day disabled list or something. But Paul Skeens is one of the best pitchers in baseball, not just the National League, but all of baseball. So, and maybe something happened with Skeens during the World Baseball Classic. I know that, he pitched in it. So, maybe just a little bit overworked. Maybe they need to shut him down. At least shut him down for the game against the Reds, and then start the next series off with a big start from him. All right, let's look at the rest of the Central before we get off here. See what kind of series the Central had. All right, National League Central, obvious, sure. The Brewers start out 3-0. They beat the White Sox, outscored the White Sox 29-10 in their 3-game series. Scored 9, 6, and 14. Christian Yelich hit a home run, kind of capping off the big game 3. He's already off to a hot start, batting 600. And Gary Sanchez, the former catcher of the Yankees, has a home run, but Yelich already has 5 RBIs. And, they're just, when you think of the Reds in the past, and you think of certain guys that no matter how bad of a season they're having, we always, Reds killers. Yelich, I would put in that category. Yelich is a Reds killer. Cardinals also went 2-1. They were able to beat up on the Rays. They lost the very first game opening day, but then won the next 2. Then the Pirates and Cubs are both 1-2. So Reds 2-1. So I hadn't really seen the Brewers, but seems like to me, Blue Jays, Yankees, Marlins, Brewers, and Dodgers all went 3-0. Dodgers beat up on the Diamondbacks, so that's a good way to start your division campaign is against the Diamondbacks and to win 3. Not that I feel like the Dodgers aren't going to win the NL West. The Dodgers are flat loaded. But all right. But all in all, not too many overreactions, although, I'm not ready to crown Sal Stewart Hall of Famer just yet. I am saying he's a front runner for NL Rookie of the Year. I thought Matt McLain had a very good first series coming out of a very hot spring training. I really thought the starting pitching, Abbott, Singer, and Rhett Lauder had a great series. Bullpen did enough to win 2 of the 3 games. Bullpen wasn't really a factor in, I guess, opening day. I guess so it was because, Abbott didn't give up any runs. So, yeah, maybe the bullpen was a factor. But for the most part, I'd say the bullpen was average in the first series. And then the hitting was Stewart and McLain, and then Gino getting us that big knock today that gives a 3-2 advantage and then going on to win that series. So if I can, I don't know, I may be able to do a midweek podcast. We'll try to get a hold of this Drunken Mallard. I really do want to try to get a hold of him. I think he would be great. There's a couple other Reds pundits on Twitter that I've reached out to. Reds Daily, he was great the time he came on, very knowledgeable. So I've reached out to a couple other Reds who know a lot more about it than me that we can have this discussion and talk on. But be sure to keep cheering those Reds on. We got the Pirates this week. Let's go 3-0 against the Pirates, or at least go 2-1, 4-2 in the first 2 series. Get us a good jump in the division, and let's just keep the momentum running in April. And the way to keep these fans continue to come up a Great American and continue to show up is to continue to win series. And Reds are definitely going to win this next series just because of the momentum from this series. So, all right, guys, I appreciate you all. We had several people in here tonight. Remember to, before you go, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the podcast. Please, when you're here, to comment, interact. It just makes it go by so much better when we can carry on a good discussion and get multiple people's input. I'm looking for several people, like 3 or 4. I'd like to do and I talked about this one other time, but then something else came up. But I would like to start a, let me see. I was looking for the picture. Not so sure. I don't know where the picture's at now. Let me look here before we go. Where are we at here? Let's see here. No, I can't find what I was looking for. But I'd like to do something called the Night of the Reds Table instead of the Night of the Round Table. Kind of do a Night at the Reds Table, get several people on here just to talk about the Reds and some of the happenings and transactions and, the schedule, the results, and things like that. So I may be reaching out to several people, see if we can try to get something going. Do a little series called Night at the Reds Table. But before you go, Ellie wants to remind you to subscribe to the Stay Hot or the Stay Reds Hot podcast. I appreciate Ellie using his bat there to do that. So with that being said, I hope the Reds stay red hot and kick the Buccos out of Cincinnati this week. Let's get 3 here. Let's go.
Yeah. Queen City, stay hot. From the banks of the Ohio where the river runs slow, got the whole Queen City screaming, let's go. Red caps high when the first pitch pops, Cincinnati on fire and we stay red hot. Big red legacy, bats stay loud, ball flying out while the fans stand proud. From the riverfront seats to the top of the chart, talking Reds baseball, yeah we bring the spark. Stay red hot, let the whole world know. Queen City baseball, putting on the show. From the first pitch drop to the last swing shot,